Welcome to the fourth session of True North Moral Compass Leadership. And I am Jamie Solvay-Cerrone, and I'm going to take you into exploring your values and imagining leadership. Everyone has a unique set of values built upon from life experiences, and these values reflect what we find meaningful in life. They are what we care about deep down. Values are what you believe are most important to living your highest self. They determine your priorities in life and influence your decision-making. Happiness comes from matching your choices with your values. Discontent comes from not matching your choices with what you believe in. Virtues are habits that form our character. There is the man we aspire to be, and there is the man that we are. Quote, unquote, Aristotle. And when we now going into philosophy from the Greeks and Aristotle was the great tutor of Alexander the Great. And his father, Nicomachus, is the one that commissioned Aristotle to be the tutor of Alexander the Great, who became one of the greatest conquerors. And so when we think about the school of Republic that Plato also taught Aristotle about, we think about the word ethos, virtue of character. Ethos results in habit, hence the name ethical, which is slightly varied from ethos. How is virtue acquired? Virtue is acquired by putting our values into habit. Aristotle was in Macedonia, and he created the school called Lyceum. And Aristotle believed that the study of ethics is inseparable from the study of politics. Now, the simple statesman is a man whose values are really at the heart of everything he does, and it's not wealth. Wealth of a statesman can actually spoil the people. Now, when we practice rational control over our desires, you have a statesman and a politician that can lead the people with awareness and a level of consciousness and control over themselves, practicing their values and making them habit. The virtue is something that you can only have if you practice it. Virtue is not by a process of nature, but by habituation. It's like your habit, intuition. You pause, you think, and you practice that self-control and always thinking about your values and your ethics that then become your virtues. Considering the Greek philosophy and a great example of power and politics is the Ring of Gyges, the example of leading virtuously. In Plato's Republic, Plato uses the story of a mythical magical ring worn by Glycon that can make its wearers invisible when they put it on. This test of character leads some of its wearers to misuse its power. This story shows the will of rational, intelligent person who has no fear of negative consequences if they would act justly. What would you do if you had the Ring of Gyges? How would you use its power as a leader justly? Could you be virtuous enough to wear the Ring of Gyges? Now we are going to go into an exercise of telling your story. And in telling your story, you're going to reflect on your golden circle or your round table of support, the people who believe in you, the people who are there for you, your knights, your kings, those council. And in the council and for yourself, you can think of women or men in history. Which leaders have had the greatest impact on your conceptions of leadership that sit in your round table? Which specific examples of leading stand out in your mind from each one of these leaders in history and time? And think of this inner circle council. And what would you ask them in a crucible, in a time that you're considering to be an authentic leader, your self. In telling your story, in being a part of an authentic leader and building trust with your team, you're going to ask yourself a few questions. With your team members, you're going to build trust when you show your vulnerability and your transparency and you're open. Writing your story gives you perspective of yourself. The life story, what you're going to begin with in your journey. You're going to tell about losing your way and your crucibles. And then you'll think of the roundtable and the people who helped you realize your values at that moment. Where are you in your leadership journey? As we launch this story, think about this. How sure are you that you want to lead, and how would you describe yourself as a leader? Think of a time that you are most proud in your life when you were called to lead, and describe it as if it were happening right now. So now reflect on the path of the real you and ask 3 important people in your life how you fare in response to authenticity. Which people, events, and experiences have had the greatest impact on your life story? What do these crucibles from your life give you the greatest takeaways to give you perspective on yourself? And what are your takeaways? How do these crucibles and events still affect you? If you go back, what would you do differently? Now you are the hero in your own story. In value-based leadership, you're going to consider in this exercise, that's a continuation of telling your story and analyzing yourself, is what are your mother's values? What are your father's values? And the values of a person I respect, that you respect, society values, the ideal values I would like to live by, and the values that you actually live by. What are your family's values that don't match with your values? What are the society values that don't match with your values? And are there any conflicting values? And what are the healthy values that you should not take other people's opinions on? And what are your top priorities? Now, everyone can change over time, and values tend to change as we pass through different stages of life. So think back on different stages in your life and how are these values different? Values reflect how we want to engage with the world, family, and friends. So how do your values differ from your families and your friends? And how do your values differ from society? Values are like the bridges that connect ourselves to our past communities and culture. Knowing ourselves connects us to humanity and bridges us to eternity. Now we're going to go over a case study of an excellent CEO. You may have heard of him, Jack Welch of General Electric, one of the greatest CEOs of this last few decades. He revolutionized General Electric from toasters, appliances, refrigerators, anything like appliances that you can imagine, to a billion-dollar company that had over 14 different businesses under its umbrella, including venture capitalism. And his way of leadership and the values for the company is what changed it around to become a company that it was emulated around the world and the globe and gained quite a bit of respect. So Jack Welch, what did he do differently? He was an Irish American. He was raised, his mother and father were very simple people, but competitive. If you were to go through his Clifton strengths, competitive was definitely one of those, and activator as well. He cut the bureaucratic, what he called bureaucratic crap. He downsized the company with people who were in positions and jobs not doing enough for the company, and then saved all the money as well. So one of the values in my family, on our family crest, is in line with this Jack Welch, and it's Latin, labor omnia victis, which means hard work always is victorious. And that is a family crest motto. Now, when you go through your story or your moral compass, I always find like having Latin just or a motto and a creed as well can help you go through life leading your family and your companies. So labor omnia victis. And that is our my mother's side, Caswell side family crest. That I believe also goes in line with Jack Welch, one of the top CEOs of this century. So he did have a cult-like following. Some of his values would be simplicity. He had a Six Sigma, which I will talk about in this case study, a workout program, edge, energy, execute, his 4 E's playbook. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. What is the Six Sigma? Six Sigma is a tool that Welch built a barometer to measure the quality and excellence of the GE product. This refers to a standard of excellence in manufacturing, billing, and loan process. It began in 95. The quality initiative reduces the shrinkage and increases bill rates. This tool assists GE in assessing and tracking productivity gains rather than output per unit of labor, but output per unit of all inputs. From the article and case study that I did in Pepperdine, that is a quote on the Six Sigma. Now, when he had to work out, cut the bureaucracy, Welch built up in the 20 years at GE an inexorable plan for organization by breaking the intimidation of the CEOs and subordinates. He was actually very one-on-one with people. He was honest, and in how he put it in a few interviews that you can also watch on Jack Welch is he found it more courageous, more brave to tell these employees, yes, you're the bottom of our barrel right now. Maybe the last 10 that could be keeping their position. In a way, those employees had the opportunity to correct their performance. And instead of it being either a cutthroat type of CEO, that's not the way it was. It took him more bravery. It's more cowardly to just let a person go after 10, 20 years without any type of basically letting them know how their performance is doing. So this workout program was a takeaway of these dusty, obstructive bureaucracy with the reports and the rituals and approvals and books and what he calls his rough and tumble play. So now in Jack Welch and his 4 E's to leadership, the first E is energy, demonstrating the proactive, can-do attitude, optimistic, motivated, and to get great things done with energy. Now, the energizer motivates through the frequent communication and encourages support. E, the third E, edge. You have the edge. You're able to make tough decisions in a timely manner and addresses conflict head on. And execute. Always delivers on commitments, able to work creatively around the obstacles. Jack Welch was able to take GE from an American company to a national globalization. Among his values, he faced reality as it is, not as it could or was. He was candid with everyone in his values, with his team. He didn't want to be managing, he wanted to be leading. And then change before you have any discussion, you change. If you don't have a competitive advantage, you shouldn't compete. And you control your own destiny or someone else will. So was Jack Welch a great leader? Did he increase the value of GE? Were there any major flaws? 96 billion came from GE Capital and it dwarfed all the other subsidiaries. Now it had been sold along with the GE Finance among one of those 14 businesses under GE. So most of the revenue came from its GE capital. Now the company is worth less than half its value from those two entities under the GE umbrella. So you can tell that in the 20 years that Jack Welch was with GE, he created a billion-dollar company. And then when they ended up selling quite a bit of the businesses off, it went to less than half its value. In imagining leadership, one huge component is the culture that you have created within your company and your family. A great demonstration of cultures and how to relate in different demographics is Hofstede's cultural dimensions. Now there's a 6D model of national culture. Greek Hofstede, assisted by others, came up with 6 basic issues that society needs to come to terms with in order to organize itself. These are called dimensions of culture. Each of them has been expressed on a scale that runs through 0 to 100. The dimensions of the cultures that you need to consider within your organization and in your moral compass is 1, collectivism and individualism. 2, power distance. 3, femininity versus a masculinity culture or country that you're working with. 4, the uncertainty avoidance. Is this a country that avoids conflict? And long-term orientation. Is this orientation momentalism, long-term flex humility, or based on both? And we have indulgence. Is there a restraint, or do they indulge? And this is very interesting when you look through your company and geographically, or how you're creating the culture, is to consider Hofstede's dimensions. In this chart, you will see on the outer circle how the culture affects the norms and its values. In the center of this diagram is the context and your leader with the followers and your common goals. And this is the interaction that the norms will have within the values of the culture. An exemplary painting that comes to mind in a leadership that is a leader that is a hero is George Washington crossing the Delaware, standing at the helm of a boat with his soldiers. This is a powerful piece of art, and in art analysis, we can ask, why is this such a powerful image at times with leadership? The leader here, it gives the image of a larger than life figure to be emulated and revered. Successful leaders have courage, passion, and vision. This was, the painting was on December 25th in the attack that the militia with young James Monroe and other founding fathers of the United States, they capture the attention of the glowing frames. Their position shows this importance in crossing the Delaware. Now, we have a larger than life figure, and he's a hero figure. Sometimes we think of this leader with endowed superpowers. He's calm under pressure and resolute. He's courageous and he's daring in the attack. The leader is closely associated with the ultimate goal. So how do your leadership roles correlate with your ultimate goal? And how do you want to be depicted as the leader in your story and the hero? Happy New Year 2025. My goal till this point was staying alive till 2025 and making it an awesome year. I have had a goal every year for the last 10 years of, in 5 words or less, having a motto. And one year I had pay it forward. Another year was one good year, just have one good year. And another year was just Godward, onward, forward. This year it's going to be make it happen. Make it happen. And 5 words or less, something really simple for your culture, for yourself, and put that alongside your life story or your moral compass for this year. Happy New Year. I want to say, so great to be here and to be sharing with you the True North Moral Compass. And I look forward to seeing you in 2025.